Welcome. You are listening to the East Coast Sisterhood Podcast, where women are inspired, encouraged, and loved. If you are a woman, you are sisterhood. It's not about what you do, it's about who you are and who we are called to be as daughters of God.
Hi, welcome to the Sisterhood Podcast. I'm your host, Jeannie Terry. Today, we are talking about forgiveness, and I have a wonderful guest today. Her name is Sarah Hutton, and she's going to be talking to us about forgiveness and what that looks like in her life and what that means to her and the freedom that she's found from it. You will want to hang on to every single word that she's going to be sharing with you today. And if you feel like this is an episode that your friend needs to hear about or a family member, please feel free to just click the share button and share away. Of course, you can always hit pause. If you're stumbling upon something you really need to hear, you can always rewind. This is recorded, so feel free to go back and listen as much as you need to. With that said, I want to ask you, hi. First of all, hi, Sarah.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Thanks.
Thanks so much for meeting me today via Zoom and just sharing your story, sharing your heart with us today. I'm just so thankful that I get to share. I get the honor of sharing your story. So thank you in advance for that. Before we go any further, can you tell me a little bit about yourself, Sarah?
Yeah. So I have lived in Merritt Island pretty much my whole life. I grew up here. I was born here. I have a wonderful husband that I brought home from Minnesota. I met him. He was in the Army with my brother. We fell in love, got married. I moved away with him, came back. We have 3 children here. I pretty much have attended East Coast since I was about 5 years old, on and off. Wow. And then back in 2006, when we moved here, we started going back to East Coast, and we've been going ever since. I do dental hygiene a couple days a week. I do real estate. We have some like investment property things we do. And I love doing the sisterhood stuff.
And then you just shared something with me just a few moments ago that's kind of new. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So as of Tuesday, we are super excited. We just got our foster license. So we're excited and nervous all together in one bundle to see what God has in store for us.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
So you have a powerful story about forgiveness, and it's your story, and you've probably played it in your head quite a bit. And you might think that, well, I know it, and this is how I feel about it. And it's my story. But for the people that don't know your story, I just know that they're going to be blessed by what they hear today. I know that I'm going to be asking you some questions to help you kind of open up about your story and just be able to really share with the listener the power that is in forgiveness. And it's so easy. And I think you'll agree, just because I've heard a little bit about your story, is to not forgive and to harbor bitterness and resentment and hatred and anger and all the negative emotions that comes with it. So if you could, I want to start at the beginning of your story. Could you take us back to the beginning?
Yeah. So the beginning of my story is when I was about 5 years old, I was sexually abused several times by the same abuser. I grew up kind of feeling scarred, feeling like, why did this happen to me? What was it about me that made him choose me, type thing. I didn't know until I was a little bit older that he had done it to several other girls, relatives, non-relatives. I'd heard some like, my mom and my aunt talking like, oh, they found a bunch of different underwear in so-and-so's closet or whatever, things like that kind of indicated that other things were going on. But being a child, being 5, 6, you think you're the only one and you think it's you. So for a very long time, I was angry at him for doing this to me, but even more so, I was angry at him doing it to the other girls, because I felt like I had maybe put up a wall of, I'm hard. No one's going to hurt me. like type thing, like no man will ever hurt me or touch me or whatever. So I had put up that wall. So I felt like I was dealing with it like I was fine. But I was very angry because I could see the pain that some of the other girls was going through, being promiscuous and heavy drug abuse. I'm not innocent by any means. I did my own experimenting and everything, but like they fell into things that were the only way, I guess, to mask the pain that they had suffered from.
So you all had different coping mechanisms. Theirs was maybe some drugs. Yours was, I'm putting up a wall. No man's ever going to touch me.
Yes. Exactly.
When did that start happening? Because I don't think you're thinking at 5 years old, no man's ever going to touch me. Like, was that like in your teens, your 20s? Like, how did that perception or that wall start building? Do you remember?
Yeah, I think it was pretty much when I was like a teen. Like, after you go through puberty and everything and things start happening and I always liked the boys and everything, but I was like, it's going to be, I'm rock hard. Hoo, you ain't getting here, like you're not getting this hard type thing. So it was probably when I was a teenager and even as an adult, like I had trust issues, major trust issues.
Yeah.
I don't trust men. Like
right.
I've gotten a lot better with that, but I mean, men, and by I mean like every single man that I would see with a child, I would question it.
Question like how
what their intentions were. What are they gonna? I would watch everybody. I was very leery about any man and child being together, pretty much.
Well, I feel like who could blame you? For going through what you went through. Now, the abuse started at 5. How long did it go on? Do you remember?
I think it started at 5 and maybe for like a year or so. Like I remember several different instances. I can't really say, I don't even know when it really came about that everybody knew that he was doing it. I remember getting like a little bit of counseling. I remember them coming over and being like, draw something. So I pick up and I draw, and I picked up a purple crayon, and they were like analyzing why I was using purple. And for years I hated the color purple. I hated it because I was like, it defined who I was, this color purple. Now I love purple. It's got to be like a jewel tone though.
So did your parents, they found out, they knew what was going on? Like how did this come to like the surface?
I think it was like them finding the the items and stuff. I'm not exactly sure how it all came to surface, but I can't honestly even tell you how it all came about. And then I didn't know until I was older that it was the other girls too. Mm-hmm. So like, I felt like I was all alone. And then when I was a teenager is when I found out that it had happened to other people. And I was like, oh my gosh, like,
yeah.
So,
well, my guess is that your family thought, man, she's going through enough on her own. We don't need to tell her that it's happening to other people. Like that's not for her to carry that weight. Yeah. She has enough to carry right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Protection.
Yeah. So, we're talking about forgiveness today. Have you forgiven your abuser? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah. That and, forgiveness in general. There's another instance that was really hard for me when my dad was sick, that I had to forgive not only other people, but myself and God for that situation. I don't know if you want me to go into detail about that right now, but
we can, but I do want to talk about, because I think, it's relevant, because I think there are people out there who have been abused, whether it's sexual, physical, verbal, whatever the abuse is, that are harboring a lot of unforgiveness and resentment and anger and bitterness. And they think that they are doing it for that wall of protection. They think, I'm not going to forgive you because that means what you did to me is okay.
Yeah.
What would you say to that? Like, I want to actually come back a little bit and just ask you, what on earth made you even consider forgiving someone who had hurt you like that?
Yeah. So, what I want to make, very sure, I want you to know that, forgiveness is not minimizing the offense. This is stuff I learned through my freedom group. It's not minimizing the offense. It's not reconciling with the person that hurt you. And it's not forgetting, because things like that, you just don't forget. I mean, you wish you could just block it out. But things like that, you can't forget. So like, issues like this, like big trauma, I'm never going to go up and give this guy a hug. I'm never going to let him babysit my children. I'm never going to, even when to this day, you get that gut feeling, that sickness in your stomach. But forgiveness is a choice. And what happened was, my cousin Amy, one day she calls me up, we're talking about some stuff, and she's like, would you ever be able to forgive so-and-so for what they did to you? And I was like, no, what are you, crazy? Like, I was kind of insulted. Like, why would you even ask me that? Like, why would I forgive him? He did this to me. He did this to, a whole bunch of other girls. Like, how could I even fathom thinking about forgiving him? And she said, okay, I was just wondering, because God, and she goes on and explains her stuff. And I'm just like, this girl crazy. So fast forward to Freedom Group. Right. So me and my friend Mary did a freedom group together, and week 7, here comes week 7, the week on forgiveness. And first of all, freedom is amazing. I mean, it is, I would recommend everybody on this earth do it. But it's a way to get rid of baggage and to work into your forgiveness. But I remember week 7, I'm going to read you a little something out of it real quick. It's about the word offense. And like, obviously offense can mean several different things. It can be something small. It can be something big. But it said the word offense comes from the Greek word scandalon, which means the bait. In Old Testament times, when someone wanted to trap an animal, they would cover the pit with branches and place a piece of flesh, a scandalon, on top of the branches to lure the animal into the trap. Satan uses offense as a bait to lure us into a trap of unforgiveness and bondage. By holding on to the offense, we think we are trapping the person who hurt us, but in reality, we are the ones who are ensnared. And so hearing that, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to cry. But I was like, I've been like, every time I'd see that person, I would give them the eye and be like, I'm hard. Ooh. But really, I was hurting inside. Right. And so reading this and doing all, going through this freedom group, it just kind of it showed me that I'm only hurting myself, that God forgave me for everything that I had done up until that point. So who am I to hold somebody accountable for what not accountable, but hold it against them and not forgive them that forgiveness. So through freedom, I made that choice. I'm like, okay, I'm going to try this, but I really don't think it's going to work. So I did. I made it a choice, and it was a choice I had to remind myself of daily, that I have forgiven this person. And through that, I had to do a lot of praying. The freedom ladies were amazing. They prayed with me. They helped me through it. Mary was there for me. And so, through all of that, it changed my heart. They tell you to take a cue card and write a scripture on it, right? Just to practice, to kind of get some word memorization. And so the first one I ever did was Psalms 51:10. And it was, create in me a pure heart, O God, and renew steadfast spirits within me. So I did that one. And I felt like through that, just memorizing that scripture, it truly transformed my heart. I went from picking out the things in people that were negative to seeing the broken and the pain that they're going through, or things that have happened to them, to have more sympathy, empathy sometimes, so that really just changed my heart. And so I started to see him as a broken person. He had been abused as a child. He was young. He was probably 13 when he did this to everybody, 13, 14. So he was a broken child from a broken home with abuse and so I started to see him for his brokenness and for the pain that he was going through. So that it definitely just changed my heart. I don't know. You know how they talk about you can either be a vulture or a hummingbird. You can go around looking for dead carcass, or you can go around for the honey.
Yeah, that's good.
It changed me. I want to look for that honey,
Oh, I like that. Looking for honey.
Yeah.
It's true though. We can really focus our attention on the negative, it within either ourselves or with other people. And for you to just have a full 180 and just think, man, look at his brokenness, look at his past. It doesn't make it okay, but at least I can see perhaps why this is the path he would have gone down.
That's why I'm here today.
That's amazing. I'm so honored to be able to hear your story and get the ability to share your story. You've talked about freedom quite a few times. And for people listening, could you explain what freedom is who have maybe never heard of what a freedom group is?
Okay. Yeah. Freedom is amazing. First off, it is a 10 to 12 week course that you take. You get the book, you meet with a group of people. There's a couple of videos you watch, but pretty much the curriculum is helping you to pull back the layers of an onion. They describe it as like a layers of an onion, and you want to pull back. You start with like knowing who Jesus is and who God is and how that relationship is. It goes from a relationship of works to a relationship like of love, and just it kind of shifts the way you think about God. He's not that almighty hammering God. He's that all loving parent. If we love our children this much, how much does he love us, God?
Yeah.
And so it changes the way you think. And then you go through and you deal with issues for forgiveness, for offense, just for everything, for hurts, for brokenness, for bitterness. I mean, everything that you can think of, pride, you go through and you address all of these week by week. And then, it talks about like the power of your words, and you go through and you learn. It's like this whole like life kit book. Thing.
Right.
I don't know. And then at the end of these 10 weeks that are absolutely amazing, you get it's like a 2-day retreat, and it is just powerful. It breaks off chains. It just frees you so much. And I love, love, love to see all the girls in our group, from the beginning until the end, like the changes that they make and the freedom that they get out of it. It blesses me. I almost feel sometimes like I'm selfish, like I'm doing this, like I'm getting, I get to see all this happen, but it's
so you can take freedom over and over. How many times have you gone through the freedom curriculum?
So I did it twice. I did it once by myself, as a single person, not by myself, in the group. And then I did it once as a married couple. And then I've co-led it or led it, I think 9 times now.
Oh my goodness.
I lost track. I couldn't really tell you. So since like the third time, I missed the first time, I did it the second time, and then I co-led the third time, and ever since then.
What makes you keep leading it year after year after year?
I just love it. I feel like every year I get something new out of it. Like the first year I did it, I forgave this guy. The second year I did it, or second time I did it, I forgave a whole nother slew of people. I was like, I didn't even know that I was still harboring this. And that's when I'll get into my next story. But yeah, it's just amazing. And it's just like with the Bible, when you open the Bible and something different pops out to you every time. It's the same thing. It's something shows up, you have to be expectant. You have to go in looking for it. You have to go in going, God, I want my life to change. And I know that you can do it through this. And if you really do, and you really trust him, and you really do the work, and you really spend that time with the book and with the scripture and with the groups, it'll change your life. I truly believe it'll change your life.
Over and over and over, right? From glory to glory. Like you're saying, you find something new. Let's go into that story that you're going to say about when your dad was sick.
Okay. So, second, third, I don't know which freedom group it was. So my dad, when I was 29, my dad got sick. He was always a loving father, good father, to me at least. He always treated me great. We were very close. He was babysitter of my children. He loved them. When my mom and dad got divorced, he started to drink a lot. He never drank when he watched my kids. He could cut it off and be completely sober. But when he was home, I think he was just dealing with that. By drinking, and come to find out later that he had hepatitis C too. So on top, those two on top of each other, he ended up getting cirrhosis, and he got it really bad. He was pretty sick, and so, or actually he hadn't really shown signs of sickness yet, but he said, there's something wrong. I can't urinate. Mm-hmm. And we knew that's really bad. So that's when we found out that he had, the liver disease and everything. And so I was like, well, me and my husband, we're going to sell our house. We're going to move in with you. He was going to live in one of the rental properties, and I'm going to pay for everything. And you're just going to be able to live your life and just kind of relax. We'll get you healthy. I was going to cook for him every night, and that was our plan. So fast forward, we end up moving in there, and things just changed. Things went crazy. The day that we were moving in, he came over, he started dumping stuff into buckets. And I'm like, what is he doing? He was always a little eccentric, a little bit different. But this was, the first flag, So that was in April. And so by May, he got what's called ascites in his stomach. It's where it gets distended. It's really big and round. And so because he couldn't urinate, the ammonia that builds up from your body, it went to his brain, causing brain damage. And that usually affects the judgment part of your brain. But I don't know if it was just part of it was his anger at the fact that he was probably going to die unless he can get a liver transplant, or if it was complete brain damage. So he started acting very strange, very scary, very irrational. He would do some very crazy things. We were living there. My husband would work at night sometimes or go out of town. And I had a 2-year-old and a 5-month-old. And it got to the point where my dad was so scary. This man that I loved that used to always look out for me, and we'd joke around. I couldn't, every time I looked in his eyes, it was like he wasn't there. It was blank, almost like a sociopath. And so me and my kids, we lived upstairs in one of the rooms. I had a microwave up there with me. I had dishes because I was afraid to come downstairs. So my husband would go work at night, and I would lock myself in the room. I'd put a dresser up against the door, and I would wait and listen because he'd be up through all hours of the night. And I would, in my head, I had a plan in case he started a fire, because he would smoke cigarettes downstairs and pass out and drop things and leave razors, and he had hepatitis C, and I had these 2 kids and Q-tips and just random crazy things, cook in the middle of the night with grease all over. So I had a feeling he was going to start a fire or something. So in my head, I had planned out my escape route of which child I was going to drop through the window first from that second story. And so it got really bad. He got really sick. And through that, I was taking care of my 2 little ones, but I was the one taking my dad to the hospital, to the liver transplant, hospital over in Orlando. And my dad was crazy. He would go to the hospital, and I'd be like, yes, we bankrafted him. I had 3 days that he's going to be in the hospital, and I'm going to get peace. Oh, wow. And then 12 hours later, I'd get a phone call from the hospital saying, Miss Carew, I think your dad may have escaped. He locked the door in the bathroom, so we thought he was going to the bathroom for the last hour. And then he'd call me and say, come get me on the side of the road. I'd be like, wow. Oh my gosh. So anyways, it was very crazy. It was a very crazy time. And during this time, my brother was dealing with his own sick child. My mom and dad were divorced, and, but he still went over there. So everybody had kind of abandoned me at that point. So it was me, my 2 little ones, my husband was working on and off, and then my very sick and crazy father. And so for years after his death, I could only see him the way that I remember him those last, 8 months. Mm-hmm. But I was very angry at my family for leaving me, for abandoning me, because they didn't want him to get blood on their couches when he had ruined virtually every piece of my furniture or had given it away because his judgment was off. And so he was like having people come over. You want to take this furniture? You want this? I'll trade it for this. And so he was trading my furniture. It's just some very crazy things going on, but I was very angry at them for that for many years. And so through doing the freedom the 3rd time or whatever, that's when I realized I have to let this go. I can't be angry at my family. Everybody deals with trauma, and everybody deals with situations like this in a different. Some people's it's flight. My sister was a flyer, like she stayed away. And one of my other brothers had PTSD already. And so him seeing my dad, like, so it was just, I had to look at like, okay, everybody deals with something. And obviously God has me here to deal with my dad, because
Right.
maybe what happened to me made me so strong when I was a child. Now I can handle this with my father.
Right.
So through that, I was able to forgive my my siblings and my mom for leaving me with him. But even more so, I got to forgive myself, because there were times when he was sick and I was dealing with so much and I just couldn't take it. I'd be like, Jesus, just take him. I would just wish he would die. I mean, he was sickly, and I felt bad for him because I know he felt like people were staring at him and he was, like he was a leper, so I would just pray, Jesus, please take him now. And I felt bad for that. And I also felt bad because I was so afraid of him at that point that I didn't ever want to talk to him about like, God, like, are you going to go to heaven? And so I never had that conversation with him. But come to find out, my cousin had that conversation with him and told me that before he died, she knows that he gave his life to Christ. So where I was lacking, he put someone there to pick up the slack.
He is faithful.
Yes, always faithful. And it just over and over again.
And there's a scripture in the Bible. I don't remember which one it was. I wish I had it with me right now, but I think one of the disciples was asking Jesus, how many times should we forgive? But what does he say? Like 70 times 7? 70. And I'm like trying to do the math. Cause like,
I don't know, 490, 4,900, something like that.
Right. Cause you want to do the math because you want to know at what point can I stop?
Yeah.
But what does forgiveness look like to you in each of the situations? Did you literally go up to your abuser and say, hey, I forgive you? Like, or to your family that abandoned you, hey, I forgive you? Or has this been all more of like an internal release?
Yeah, mostly it's internal. I have not gone up to my abuser and said anything like that, but that's definitely more internal. I have had some conversations with my siblings about it, my mom. And I think I pretty much I did tell my mom that, like, that it really hurt me and everything, and that I had forgiven them. And then obviously my forgiveness through myself was internal. And then my forgiveness to God, because I was so mad at him. I was like, why would you take my dad? He was like one of my friends. Mm-hmm. And I'll never forget laying in bed one night, and my friend Mary had said, oh yeah, I'll meet up with you. I'll call you when I'm done. I'm going to have lunch with my dad tomorrow. And I was just sitting there, I was putting one of my daughters down to sleep. And I just remember just like starting to cry, like hysterically, like I will never have that chance to go to lunch with my dad or dinner with my dad, or he was so close with my oldest child. Like that was his like little best friend, and he babysat her and everything. And now my kids aren't going to get to know the cool, the nice, the loving, the carefree dad that I knew, so that really made me angry. And I remember staying up and being like, God, why would you do this? Like, I was just angry at him, and we had a little bit of a battle going on that night. And, but you know what? God works everything together for our good. I just know that, and I believe it. And sorry, I'm going to get emotional.
No, that's okay. And I just feel like where you're going with this is that our family, and just people that God brings into our life, they're gifts. We can't hold on to them forever. And we have to be able to let go and say, God, you are more important than this person. Like, I am so hurt. I am so sad that this happened to me, or I lost this person, or my children won't know this man the way I knew him and the way I loved him. But you gave him to me as a gift. He was here for a while, and thank you. Like, that's all we can do is just thank him for the time that we did have.
Yeah. Yep.
So, I want to lead people to freedom. I feel like this is what the church is about, what your story is about. And sometimes, this might be a new concept that people haven't heard. Like, how can you be free by forgiving? How does that make you free? And it's really a mindset of freedom, because back to what you were reading in chapter 7 of the Freedom Group is not being a slave to your own resentment and your own negative feelings that just really do more damage than we'd like to admit on the inside. I know for me, I went through a retreat. I went through the freedom group as well. And I was like, this is awesome. This is awesome. Just going along. And then I get to the retreat. And then literally like it was the first day of the retreat, probably the first 5 minutes, I forgave my father. And I was like, where did that come from? Like, I wasn't even planning on forgiving. Like, I didn't even realize I was still harboring unforgiveness towards my father. And I was just like, wow. And I just started crying. And I was like, I forgive you, daddy, calling him daddy. And I'm just like, I haven't seen my father since I was 3 years old, nor do I remember him, So, and I say that for people who, if you're going through the freedom group and you're not feeling things or nothing you don't think is changing, just wait till you go to the retreat.
Yeah.
I feel like if you can do both, great. I mean, they've set it up so where you can just do the curriculum, it's standalone, you can just do the retreat, but I think combined, it's very powerful. What do you say to that?
Oh, absolutely. It's like the icing on the cake, the retreat is. And like I said, even doing it over and over again, something is shown every time. And at the retreat, they'll get up there and they'll talk about something. You'll be like, I ain't got nothing on this. I'm good. I already cleared my conscience of that, or whatever, you want to call it. And sure enough, you go down there to get prayer and something just bops you upside the head and something comes to mind. It's like, oh, and like you said, it's like, I didn't even know I was dealing with this. And it's like a godly therapy session is what it is. It's like 10 weeks of the most intense, but good intense, like life renewing therapy. And it's all Bible based. And it's just so eye opening. And the thought, it's like freedom. I guess I would describe it as like that heaviness just being lifted off of you, because you're able to just get rid of so much crud. And I know a lot of people are, haven't experienced a lot of stuff, so they'll say, well, I don't really have anything, but everybody's got something, whether it be that girl in 6th grade that picked on you, or, that boyfriend that treated you like whatever. There's always something, we don't go through life unscathed. We all have issues. And so we do, we all have issues. Okay. Let's just face it. But, it's working through those issues. It's perspective. It changes your perspective on things too, which I think is a huge thing, is how you see things.
That's absolutely true, because you said that your perception shifted. It kind of got off of you and the trauma you went through to now you're focusing on him and not picking out the negative and what he did, but you're actually finding his story, and you're able to give him that mercy and grace that maybe no one's ever shown him.
Yeah. Yeah. God extended his grace upon us. So who am I to withhold it from anybody else? And like I said, it's not reconciliation. It's not forgiving, and it's not minimizing the offense, because it was not anything that anybody should ever have to experience. But it is just lifting that weight off of me, or you, or whoever it is. It's those things that we're holding on to, because I think we have control issues as human beings.
Yeah.
We want to control things. And when we are like, no, I'm angry and I'm not going to forgive this person, we think we have control over it. No, it's the total opposite. It's controlling you.
Yeah.
So to let go of that, it's what do they say about surrender? People look at surrender as it's like, oh, I'm throwing in the white flag, but really it's not. It's empowering. So going through the freedom, going through the trust, or the forgiveness, week 7 and everything else. Week 7 is always a huge one for everybody. They're like, can we go back over week 7?
Lucky number 7.
Yes, exactly. But it's something to just know your worth and show you how to utilize the powers of God.
I love what you said. I just want to reiterate how I understood what you just said. And it's about controlling. And I think God's telling us, don't control it. You can just let go of it. There's a difference between controlling and let going. I don't know if that's a word. Letting go. So stop trying to control it, because it's actually controlling you. Once you let it go, that's the surrender. That's saying, I will not allow you to have control of me anymore. I will not allow what has happened to me to control me anymore and continue to have this victim mentality, because we know how the story ends. Jesus Christ won the victory on the cross, and we come from a point of victory. No matter what happened in our past, no matter what happens in the future, we need to come at a stance of not victimization, but victory. And it's easier said than done sometimes. But I think going through freedom groups and connecting with a church and people who can encourage you, like your cousin Amy, you ever thought about forgiving him? No. Why would I do that? Like, and you know, that's little seeds planted. She planted a little seed, you know, and look at where we are now. I'm so proud of you, and I'm so thankful that you shared your story. Can you tell people how they can get involved in a freedom group?
Yeah, absolutely. They launch twice a year. Usually we do it in the fall and in the spring. And right now you can go to either eccc.us and then go to Get Connected Groups and then join a freedom group. And it'll give you a list of all the different times. There's some that are Zoom right now. There's some that are face-to-face. Some are co-ed, some are not, some are just for teens. I mean, they're everything that you can think of. And then if you also had the app, you can go to the East Coast app and go to ministries, and then scroll down to the bottom. There's this little square that says freedom, and you click on that. So those are a couple of ways. I'm sure you could call the church, but I'm sure they'd like you to utilize their wonderful tools here.
Are you leading a freedom group?
We are, yes. I am leading with Katie again. We're doing it on Friday mornings at 11 o'clock, and we're going to hold it in the building, the East Coast building, the children's ministry building, I believe.
That's great.
So we are exciting and expectant. We have some repeaters this time too, because like I said, it's something that you can do over and over again.
Keep on keeping on. I like that. Okay. Do you have any final thing you'd like to say to anyone, or if you do?
Yeah, I guess just, so forgiveness is absolutely a choice. You can't always follow your feelings, because your feelings will lie to you, and you don't want to eternally make this choice to be angry and keep that unforgiveness based on that temporary feeling. So, and I don't mean just temporary, because it had been a feeling since I was a child until I was 30 some years old. So that was temporary. It was a very long temporary, but now it's gone. So, just making that choice to do it, and always pray about things, always pray to God, and he will help you through it. I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to forgive this man, but through praying, God, can you help me? Please help me forgive them. Lord, thank you for helping me forgive them. And it truly does work. So even if you think you can't do it, give it a try. It's worth it. I mean, worst case scenario. Yeah. What do you have to lose? Right.
Exactly. And what do you have to gain?
Yes. Freedom. Whole bunch of freedom.
Well, thank you so much. I think on that note, we're going to end, Sarah. And I just appreciate you telling your story. And I just know that this is going to bless people listening to it. So thank you so much.
Thank you. You're welcome. Love you, ladies.
Thank you for listening to the East Coast Sisterhood podcast. You can find more information about sisterhood at eccc.us/sisterhood. You can also find us on Instagram and Facebook. Just search East Coast Sisterhood.